The Jonathan Allen trade rumors continue to swirl as two new trade destinations for the defensive tackle have been listed. We'll go over both of them today on the show. And then also, I'm going to ponder the question here. Should the Washington Commanders move Sam Cosmi from guard back over to tackle, but this time move him to the left side? I think it's an interesting idea. We'll talk about the possibility today on the show. And then also, could the Commanders bring back this former Commander this offseason before the start of training camp? Make sure you stick around to see which former Commander they might decide to bring back. Now, before we get into today's news and rumors coverage for the Burgundy and Gold, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we have daily Commanders videos breaking down the latest news and rumors surrounding this football team. Also, breaking news coverage. So every time they sign a player, every time they make a trade, every time they cut a player, we're going to have you guys covered with breaking news coverage. Then also, we have a weekly live show every single Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you can talk Commanders football, not only with me and our producer for that week, but also the rest of the Commanders fans that tune in. And then also, guys, it's all 100% free. So if you want to join the largest interactive Commanders community here on YouTube, 100% free of charge, this is going to be the place for you. Make sure you click that subscribe button and join our family today. So now let's start with Jonathan Allen here, where he's been linked to two NFL teams as potential trade destinations for him if the Commanders decide to unload him during this year's offseason. And the two teams that were mentioned are the Miami Dolphins and then the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pretty interesting choices here, if I'd have to say so myself. If I was putting together a list, I probably wouldn't especially put the Steelers on that list. But this is what Kyle Krabs from the Locked On Dolphins podcast had to say on the possibility he gets traded to Miami. The most Chris Greer and diabolical thing the Dolphins could do this offseason would be to let Christian Wilkins walk and then summer trade for Washington defensive lineman John Allen, who is rumored to be on the block this offseason. He's 1 year older than Christian Wilkins, and his cash owed for the next 2 seasons is $29.5 million, about half of what Christian was asking for. If Christian walks and you net a comp 3, talking about a compensatory third-round pick, could the 3 be the cornerstone of a deal with Washington this summer to bring him to Miami when the Xavier Howard money kicks in? And then there's the Steelers rumor here, which is pretty interesting as well. And this one is coming from the Draft Network's Justin Mello, who had this to say about the possibility of sending Allen to the Steel City. Cameron Hayward has been the league's most consistently dominant defensive tackle over the previous decade. He's entering his age 35 season in 2024 and the final year of his contract. The Steelers should start thinking about a succession plan. Trading for Allen and pairing him with Hayward for a season isn't the worst idea. It could even keep Hayward most effective as more of a rotational defender before Allen flawlessly steps into his full-time role in 2025. Keeping Russell Wilson's contract to a 1-year, $1.2 million agreement has given Pittsburgh maximum flexibility. General manager Omar Khan has a top 5 amount of effective cap space heading into next offseason at $73.7 million as well. Now, I think between these two trade destinations here, I do think the Miami Dolphins makes more sense. The Pittsburgh Steelers just drafted Keanu Benton last year out of Wisconsin. He had a great rookie season, and then Cam Hayward himself says he wants to play 3 more years. So getting a succession plan in John Allen, who's going to be 30 years old come next January. I just don't know if that really makes sense as a succession plan for Pittsburgh. But for Miami, they did lose Christian Wilkins in free agency this year. So I do think that if one of these teams were to get Jonathan Allen in a trade, it'd probably be Miami. However, I don't think the Washington Commanders are looking to trade Jonathan Allen. I think it makes sense from people outside of the building that Jonathan could be on the move because he has said in the past he wants to be traded, or not necessarily traded, but he's thought about playing for other teams, and he's voiced his displeasure with the Washington Commanders' lack of winning seasons throughout his career. And let's face it, man, he's 29 years old. His prime is starting to run out, and he wants to try to use those prime years to help a team win a championship. So it's definitely plausible why people think Jonathan Allen could be on the trade market. But personally, guys, I don't think so. Washington still has him under contract for 2 years, and I think he's going to play a very key role in Dan Quinn's defense this year, because I think people look at the Johnny Newton pick as like, oh, they're bringing in Johnny Newton to replace Jonathan Allen for the long term. But what I actually think is going on here is I think that they see Johnny Newton almost as a 3-4 defensive end, almost like a 5 technique, and they're going to have almost like a 5 down front. So you're going to have Dorrance Armstrong as your true edge defensive end type. Then you're going to have Jonathan Allen as your true 3 technique, your true pass rusher. Deron Payne at 320 pounds will be pretty much your nose tackle in the middle. Then you have Johnny Newton at 280 pounds. He's kind of like a bigger 3-4 defensive end type, really good pass rusher, all these different things. His deficiencies in run defense are going to be lesser at the 5 technique spot than he would at the 3 technique spot. And then Frankie Louvu, I think, is going to be more of a hybrid blitzing type of linebacker that's going to be put on the line of scrimmage a lot. I break down kind of my thoughts on what I think Dan Quinn is going to be doing with this defense in a video we put out last week talking about his defense and how I think he's going to formulate this. So I'm going to put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show if you want to see what I think the Commanders' defense is going to look like in 2024. So predict it for me down there in the comments section. Will Jonathan Allen get traded during this offseason? Type T if you think he's gone and he's going to get traded, or type S if you think he's going to stay and he's going to remain a Washington Commander. Now, before we get into the rest of today's show, I want to go over our friends at PrizePicks today. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the PrizePicks app today and use our code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. And PrizePicks has specials for new and returning users alike for the NBA playoffs. And guys, we know football season has been over for a while now. It's not going to be back for a little bit now. But you know what, guys? The NBA title is on the line, and there's no shortage of high-stake basketball moments this time of the year. So you can get in on the excitement right now with our friends at PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. That is, if you know ball. Here's my projections for Tuesday's game for the game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Celtics and Pacers. I'm going to take the less on rebounds for Jason Tatum, the more on points for Jrue Holiday, and then the less on points for Tyrese Halliburton with the great defense there in Boston. The NBA playoffs are now in full force, and you can pick more or less right now to make some money on the biggest stage in the game. PrizePicks is simple to play. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and then watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the PrizePicks app today and use our code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. With our friends at PrizePicks, you can pick more or pick less. It's that easy. Right now, let's talk about Sam Cosmi here, and let's talk about the possibility of maybe moving him over to left tackle from right guard. Now, before you click away from this video in pure rage that I'm even suggesting this, I want to say right now, I hate to consider this, all right? I really do. Sam Cosmi moved from right tackle over to right guard last year, and it was a really smooth transition, and he was graded in the top 5 in the National Football League among guards last year at an 80.6 Pro Football Focus grade. This is somebody that's a Pro Bowl caliber guard right now, and if the Commanders had a better plan at left tackle, I wouldn't even be considering this just because of how well Cosmi played. But, you know, that's not the situation we're in right now, at least in my opinion. It might be the right choice to put your best offensive lineman at the most valuable spot on your offensive line, being left tackle, especially with a rookie quarterback coming in Jayden Daniels, and you need to make sure that your best offensive lineman is protecting his blind side. You look at Cosmi's relative athletic score when he was coming out a few years back. This guy's got the physical tools to play tackle in the National Football League. He has the size to do it. He's got the foot speed to do it. He's got not the longest arms in the world at 33 inches, but certainly long enough. And I think that he clearly has the tools to play left tackle if the Washington Commanders wanted to move him there. And then right now you look at the top offensive tackle options for the Washington Commanders, and there's not a whole lot of options that I like. Cornelius Lucas was okay, I guess, in the swing tackle role that he assumed last year, but he gave up 3 sacks. And you got Brandon Coleman coming in. I think his foot speed is very underwhelming. Not sure if he's going to be able to come in year 1 and really be trusted as a left tackle in the National Football League. Andrew Wiley, more of a right tackle, and even when he's in, he gave up 9 sacks last year. And then Jayden Daniels, who was kind of brought in as a project offensive tackle guy, missed his entire rookie season, How ready is he really going to be to potentially play on this offensive line this year? I don't know. But you might be saying to me right now, Jack, doesn't Cosmi suck at tackle? Didn't we try him at tackle earlier in his career? The answer to that question is yes. But they tried him at right tackle, not left tackle, where he played most of his college ball. And then even when he was playing right tackle, I could make an argument right now that he played just as good, if not better, than our current starter at right tackle in Andrew Wiley. It's 14 games played versus 15 games played there, not snaps. So that's my bad there. And then we got sacks 5 to 9. Okay, so Cosmi 5 sacks is not great there for Cosmi, but Wiley giving up 9, certainly not great either. And you guys can see by these numbers here that Cosmi, even not playing the best at right tackle, was still better than what they currently have slated as one of their starting offensive tackles. And you got to remember here that Sam Cosmi played most of his college snaps at left tackle for the Texas Longhorns. It is the reason why he got drafted so high in the second round by the Washington Commanders a few years back. Okay, so what the Commanders did is they took a left tackle and they plugged him in at right tackle. He wasn't the most comfortable. He wasn't the best at that position. Then they plugged him in at right guard last year and it worked out. But is it completely ridiculous to think that Cosmi, if he moved to left tackle with his ability to move, with his adequate arm length, with his ability and his experience playing left tackle, is it completely crazy to think that he would be a good option at left tackle? And if this is something that could work out for the Washington Commanders, you would be effectively putting your best overall offensive lineman at the most important spot along the line, and that is obviously valuable for the Washington Commanders. Now, it does worry me a little bit because you risk adding another hole to this offensive line, right? Sam Cosmi at right guard is that one spot that you feel really good about, and if you move him to left tackle, that creates another question mark that I understand why some Commanders fans don't want to risk. But listen, man, Jayden Daniels, he's kind of slender. He can't be taking too many big hits next year. And I worry that if it's Cornelius Lucas or Brandon Coleman, it's going to get ugly for the rookie quarterback, and it might lead to him getting hurt. So let me know down there in the comment section, would you even consider moving Sam Cosmi to left tackle this year? Give me a yes or a no to let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comments. So if you don't want Cosmi to move over to left tackle, and by the way, I completely understand why the people that answered no to that question don't want him to move. What's going to be the answer then? Are we going to roll with Brandon Coleman and risk him? Or are we going to go with Cornelius Lucas, who did not have a good season last year either? Like, what are we going to be doing at left tackle? Well, another possibility is to bring back Charles Leno Jr. And I can already hear you guys groaning at home. Oh, no, not him again. But listen, man, he was the best offensive tackle on the Commanders last year, and I understand why they cut him to save the cap space that they did, but now he's going to be dirt cheap. So why not bring him back, right? You got the Pro Football Focus grade last year. He was the top graded offensive tackle on the team last year at a 72.5, which isn't great, but it's not atrocious either. Then you look at the sacks allowed. He allowed 3, the same amount as Cornelius Lucas, despite having significantly more snaps. And then he had many more, or many less, I should say, sacks allowed than Andrew Wiley on the right side, who gave up 9 last year. So Charles Leno Jr. is not the best left tackle in football. Okay, there's a reason why he is still available. And I wouldn't hate this personally, guys, okay? I look at somebody like Charles Leno. He's been a very solid left tackle in the league for a long time. He's had some injury issues here, which is maybe why he hasn't been signed yet. But he's somebody that isn't an elite guy. He's not going to be able to go up against the Micah Parsons of the world and really hold his own. He has some really ugly losses, so I understand why a lot of you guys don't like him. But, man, overall, he's pretty solid in both phases of blocking, and I think that he's somebody that could absolutely fit here. Now, with that being said, I don't think the Commanders are going to do it. I think after they cut him this offseason, I think they kind of burnt that bridge, and they're like, yeah, we're probably not going to bring you back. And if they want to go out and get a free agent tackle this offseason, I think it's probably going to be more like somebody like a Donovan Smith, for example, somebody that has won 2 Super Bowls in the last half decade playing for Super Bowl champion teams, including last year's Kansas City Chiefs. So I look at a guy like Donovan Smith as somebody that, is 30 years old. He's younger than Cornelius Lucas, all right? So don't tell me he's too old to be brought in. Bring him in on a 1 or 2 year contract and then address this positional need next offseason. I am a little bit upset. Adam Peters and Dan Quinn didn't fully address this position this offseason. That's a big blunder on their part, in my opinion. But right now, you got to find a Band-Aid. I'm not sure if Cornelius Lucas or Brandon Coleman is the answer. And if you don't want to move Sam Cosmi off of right guard, I think Donovan Smith is probably the most likely option for the Washington Commanders. Now, you tell me down there in the comment section, who should be the week 1 starting left tackle for this football team? Should it be Brandon Coleman? Should it be Cornelius Lucas? Should it be Sam Cosmi? Or should it be somebody else like a Donovan Smith? Would you bring back Charles Leno Jr.? Let me know down there in the comment section what you would do to address this need at left tackle. That'll be it for today's show, guys. I really do appreciate all of your support and all the real ones sticking with me here to the end of today's program. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now, because if you made it to the end of today's video, you're going to enjoy tomorrow's video too, where we're going to be breaking down yet another day of Commanders OTAs right here on the channel.